Driving late at night had become a habit. It wasn't just the quiet roads or the better tips. I liked the stillness, the feeling of slipping unnoticed through the world. I drove for a rideshare app, picking up the occasional night owl, drunks too far gone to walk home, or business travelers catching red ice. But some nights, I got more than I bargained for. That night started like any other, my tired old Camry humming beneath me as I followed the familiar roads. It was past 2 in the morning when the request came in. A pickup from a gas station just outside town. Not unusual, but something about it made my stomach tighten. Maybe it was the fact that the gas station was closed. I pulled up anyway, letting my headlights cut through the darkness. The place was deserted except for a single figure standing near the entrance, hunched against the cold. He wore a heavy coat, hood pulled up over his face. His posture was strange, rigid, almost like he was holding his breath. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the cancel ride button, but I didn't press it. I told myself it was paranoia, that I was being dramatic. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the doors. He slid into the back seat without a word. The smell hit me immediately, something stale and sour, like damp fabric left too long in the dark. I cleared my throat, trying to ignore the unease crawling up my spine. Where to? Silence. I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was staring at me, his face barely visible beneath the hood. My fingers clenched on the steering wheel. "Sir," he finally spoke, voice low and gravelly. "Just drive." I forced a laugh. "I need an address, man." He was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "Keep going. I'll tell you where to stop." Every instinct screamed at me to end the ride, but something in his tone made me obey. I started driving, the GPS map now useless. The air in the car felt heavier, thick with something I couldn't place. I kept glancing in the mirror, but he barely moved. He just stared, his breath coming in slow, measured inhales. A minute passed, then 2. Finally, he spoke again. "Ever wonder if you've picked up the wrong person?" I swallowed. He chuckled softly. "Like, you think you're driving someone home, but you're really taking them somewhere they don't want to go?" A cold shiver ran down my spine. "You need me to turn around?" "No," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "This is the right way." I gripped the wheel tighter. The streetlights became fewer and farther apart. We were heading toward the outskirts of town, past darkened storefronts and warehouses. "You from around here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. His response was a long exhale, almost amused. "I used to be." I glanced at the mirror again. His hood had shifted slightly. I could make out the curve of his jaw, the glint of something metallic in his lap. A ring? A keychain? No, something sharper. A knife. I swallowed hard. My mind raced through options. Keep driving? Pull over? Call the cops? Then he did something that made my blood turn to ice. He leaned forward, close enough that I could feel his breath against my neck. "You've picked up the wrong person." I slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a stop in the middle of the deserted road. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Get out." My voice was barely steady. He didn't move. Instead, he tilted his head, like he was studying me. Then, slowly, he grinned. "I'm just messing with you." I stared, heart hammering. He laughed, actually laughed, and sat back against the seat like nothing had happened. "Relax, man. It's a joke." I forced myself to breathe. "Not funny." He shrugged. "Depends on your sense of humor." I wanted to tell him to get the hell out of my car, but we were in the middle of nowhere, and something told me he wouldn't just walk away. Instead, I started driving again. The sooner I got him out, the better. Another few minutes passed in silence before he spoke again. "You really didn't recognize me?" I frowned. "What? I thought you would, after last time." My grip tightened. "I don't know you." Another soft chuckle. "You don't remember, do you?" I forced myself to keep my eyes on the road. "You picked me up before," he murmured. "A long time ago." A chill crawled up my spine. No, that wasn't possible. I'd never seen this guy before in my life. "You took me somewhere." His voice dropped lower. "But I never made it home." I nearly slammed on the brakes again. "I don't." "I know you don't remember," he interrupted. "But I do." I glanced at the mirror. His hood had slipped back slightly, revealing a pale, gaunt face. A face that seemed wrong. Something about it wasn't right. "I've been waiting," he whispered. "A long time." My skin prickled. Ahead, a red traffic light glowed in the darkness. I stopped, hands shaking. The road was empty, silent. I took a slow breath. "Look, man, I don't know what you're talking about, but your stop's coming up, right?" He didn't answer. The light turned green. I started driving again. Then, from the back seat, he said something that made my blood run cold. "It's okay. I'll show you." And then, a hand, ice cold, clamped around my throat. His fingers were like ice, pressing into my skin with a grip that sent terror shooting through my entire body. I swerved, nearly losing control of the car as I choked out a strangled gasp. My foot slammed the brake, the tires screeching against the pavement. The moment the car stopped, I grabbed at his hand, trying to pry it away from my throat. His grip loosened, just for a second, just enough for me to suck in a desperate breath. I twisted, my elbow jerking back toward his face. I didn't even think. I just reacted. A sharp grunt, and then the pressure vanished. I lurched forward, coughing, gasping, my hands gripping the wheel as I fought to steady myself. I spun around, my pulse hammering so hard it hurt. The back seat was empty. I stared, chest heaving. The door was still shut. The seatbelt buckle lay untouched. No sign of him. No sound. I swore under my breath, rubbing at my bruised throat, my mind racing. I had felt him. I had seen him. His hand had been there. But now, nothing. The silence was deafening, wrapping around me like a thick, suffocating fog. The dashboard clock blinked 2:47 a.m., the numbers glowing eerily in the dark. I swallowed hard and reached for my phone. I needed to call someone, anyone, but before I could even unlock it, a whisper from the back seat. "I told you." I remember. A shiver raked through me, my body frozen in place. Slowly, my eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror. And he was there. Not sitting anymore, standing, hunched forward, his face inches from mine, his eyes dark hollows in his pale, stretched skin. His mouth twitched into a crooked grin. I lunged for the door handle. Before I could move, the car jerked violently, like something had slammed into it from the outside. My head snapped forward, cracking against the steering wheel. The pain exploded through my skull, my vision swimming. Through the dizziness, I heard the laughter. Low, raspy, right behind me. I wrenched the door open and practically fell out onto the cold pavement. My hands scraped against the rough asphalt as I scrambled away from the car, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I turned, expecting him to come after me. But the car was empty. The backseat door was shut. The headlights flickered, then steadied. I swallowed back a scream, forcing myself to stand. My legs were shaking so bad I could barely keep myself upright. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Then, something caught my eye. The rear passenger window was fogged over, as if someone had breathed against it. And in that fog, a single word had been written. Home. I stumbled back, my chest tightening. My mind was spiraling, trying to make sense of something that made none. I had picked him up. He had been in my car. He had spoken to me, touched me. And now, he was gone. A gust of wind rattled through the empty street, carrying with it a distant sound. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate, coming from behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I felt the presence before I even saw it. The weight of unseen eyes pressing into my back. A breath right against my ear. "You're going the wrong way." I ran. I didn't think. Didn't breathe. I just ran. My feet pounded against the pavement. My lungs burning. My pulse hammering so violently I thought my chest might explode. The empty street stretched ahead, lined with flickering streetlights that barely pushed back the suffocating darkness. I kept running, my mind screaming at me to get away, to put distance between myself and whatever was following me. But then I heard it. The car engine. My car engine. My steps faltered, and against every instinct, I looked back. The headlights were on. The car door was open, and he was sitting in the driver's seat. My breath hitched. He grinned at me through the windshield, his hands gripping the wheel. And then, the car peeled forward, straight at me. I barely had time to throw myself out of the way. The tires screeched against the asphalt as the car tore past, its red taillights disappearing into the night. I lay on the ground, my breath coming in sharp, painful gasps. My hands were scraped raw. My whole body trembled. I didn't move for a long time. Eventually, I forced myself up. My legs ached. My head throbbed. And my car was gone. The streets were empty again, the silence pressing down on me like a suffocating weight. I don't remember how I got home. I must have walked, but those moments are a blur, a haze of fear and exhaustion. The car was found 2 days later, abandoned in an alley miles away. The inside was spotless. No fingerprints. No signs of anyone ever being there. Except for one thing. The passenger window, still fogged. Still carrying the same word. Home. I don't pick up late-night passengers anymore. I don't drive anymore. But some nights, when I wake up gasping, my heart racing, I swear I can still hear him, laughing, somewhere, waiting for me to pick him up again. Story 2. I used to love the quiet. That's why I moved to the house in the woods, deep in a stretch of wilderness where the nearest town was almost an hour away. The isolation didn't bother me, in fact, I needed it. After a messy divorce and a career that had drained me of everything, I wanted solitude. Just me, my books, and the sound of the wind through the trees. I found the house online. The listing described it as a rustic retreat, built decades ago but still in good shape. The photos showed a sturdy log cabin, a wide porch, and a fig tree line stretching as far as the eye could see. The price was unbelievably low, almost suspiciously so, but I didn't care. I wanted an escape, and this place felt right. The first few days were exactly what I had hoped for. Peaceful, serene. Then, on the fourth night, I heard the knocking. It was just after 1 a.m. I had been lying in bed, drifting between sleep and wakefulness, when the sound echoed through the cabin, a firm, deliberate knock 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 on the front door. I sat up instantly, heart pounding. No one should be out here. I had no neighbors, no friends in the area. I hadn't even told my family where I had moved yet. I slid out of bed as quietly as possible, stepping carefully over the creaky floorboards. The knocking came again, 3 slow, heavy knocks. I crept toward the window, barely breathing, and pulled back the curtain. Nothing. The porch was empty. I swallowed hard, my pulse thrumming in my ears. I stayed there for a while, straining to hear any movement, any footsteps. But there was only silence. Eventually, I convinced myself it had been my imagination. Maybe an animal? A branch falling against the cabin? I locked the door twice and forced myself back to bed. I barely slept. The next morning, I checked the porch for footprints. The wood was damp from last night's rain, making it easy to see any marks. But the porch was clean. No signs that anyone had been there at all. I almost let it go. Almost. Until I saw the swing. I had an old wooden porch swing. When I moved in, it had been motionless, slightly tilted from the way the wood had settled over time. But now, it was perfectly straight. And worse, it was swaying. Not wildly, not like the wind had pushed it, but gently, like someone had just stood up from it. I stared at it for a long time, my stomach twisting into knots. Something wasn't right. That night, I sat up late with a book, trying to shake the unease gnawing at my nerves. The wind outside had picked up, rustling through the trees. Every so often, I found myself glancing toward the front door, half expecting to hear that same knocking again. But it didn't come. At least, not on the door. This time, it came from the window. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Right next to where I was sitting. I froze. The curtains were open. I should have been able to see whoever was out there. But there was nothing. Just darkness. My stomach churned as I set my book down, moving carefully toward the window. My fingers were shaking as I reached for the flashlight on the table. I clicked it on and aimed it outside. The beam cut through the dark, illuminating the trees. The porch. The empty swing. Nothing. I held my breath, waiting, listening. Then, a hand slapped against the glass. I stumbled back, the flashlight shaking in my grip. The handprint was huge, splayed across the glass like something had been pressing its face against it. But I hadn't seen anyone. I had been staring right at the window. A surge of cold panic shot through me. I spun toward the door, heart hammering, and grabbed the shotgun I kept by the couch. My fingers fumbled with the safety, my breath coming in fast, shallow gasps. I had 2 choices: lock myself in the bedroom and pray, or step outside and find out who the hell was messing with me. Stupidly, I chose the second. I flung open the door, stepping onto the porch with the shotgun raised. The night was silent. The trees swayed gently in the wind, casting shifting shadows across the ground. The air smelled like damp earth and pine. No footprints. No movement. But something felt off. The air was thick, wrong, like the woods were holding their breath. Then I heard it. A voice. Not from the trees. Not from the road. Not even from the window. From the swing. A whisper, barely audible over the rustling leaves. You shouldn't have come back. My blood turned ice. I turned the flashlight toward the swing, my hands clammy against the gunstock. The seat was empty, but it was moving again. Back and forth. Back and forth. Like someone was sitting there, watching me. I stepped back toward the door, heart hammering. My skin prickled as the air around me felt heavier, as if something unseen was standing right beside me. Then, right next to my ear, in a breath so close I felt it. It's not your house anymore. I spun, raising the shotgun. Nothing. Just the trees, the empty porch, the swinging seat. I bolted inside, slamming the door shut and locking it. I barely slept that night. Every shadow felt wrong. Every creak in the cabin made my skin crawl. I planned to leave in the morning. I would grab my things and drive until the gas ran out if I had to. But when I woke up, something stopped me cold. Every door, every window, wide open. The cabinets, the drawers, pulled out. And right in the center of my kitchen table. A single plate, a single fork, a single chair pulled back, as if someone had been waiting for me to join them. And scrawled across the table, in deep, jagged scratches, was one single word. Stay. I didn't stay. The second I saw the scratches in the table, I ran. Not a second thought, not a pause to grab my things. I ran out that door and into the woods like my life depended on it. The air was freezing, slicing through my lungs as I stumbled forward, my heart beat a deafening drum in my ears. The trees twisted in the wind, shadows shifting like figures in the dark. I didn't care where I was going, as long as it was away. I reached the dirt road, barely able to breathe. My truck was parked a few yards ahead, exactly where I had left it. Relief crashed over me as I sprinted toward it, my fingers fumbling for my keys. Then I saw the footprints, leading from the cabin, leading from my front door, to the truck. My stomach twisted. They weren't mine. I had just run out, and I knew my own damn footprints. But these were bigger, deeper, like something much heavier had been walking toward the driver's side. And then nothing. The prints stopped, just vanished, like whoever made them had stepped into thin air. The air felt thick around me, charged, like the woods were holding their breath. My shaking hands jammed the key into the lock. I yanked the door open, jumped inside, and slammed it shut. I locked it. I checked the back seat. Empty. Then I started the engine. The truck roared to life, the headlights slicing through the dark trees. Gravel kicked up under my tires as I floored it, tearing down the winding dirt road, my hands a death grip on the wheel. I wasn't thinking, just running. Running from whatever was in that house. Then, in the rearview mirror, something moved. I barely caught it. A shape in the trees, a dark silhouette standing perfectly still in the shadows. Watching. My hands clenched tighter. I didn't slow down. I drove through the woods faster than I should have, ignoring every pothole, every turn, the truck rattling as I sped toward the main road. My mind was still spinning. What the hell had happened? Who or what had been inside my house? I didn't know, and I sure as hell didn't plan on finding out. The second my tires hit pavement, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The highway stretched before me, empty and dark. Civilization. Streetlights. Safety. I drove until the gas light blinked on, until my pulse stopped hammering, until I saw the glowing signs of a cheap roadside motel. That's where I stopped. I checked in, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands, still shaking. It was over. Or so I thought. I had spent the last 48 hours convincing myself I had imagined it all. That it was exhaustion, paranoia, anything but real. I hadn't gone back to the cabin, hadn't called anyone, just avoided it completely. But the nightmares followed me. Every night, the same dream. I was standing in the kitchen, looking at the table, at the scratches, at the single chair. And then, behind me, a voice. Sit down. I would turn, but no one was there. Just the swing outside, moving by itself. I'd wake up shaking, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Then, on the third night, I got the call. An unknown number. I hesitated before answering, my gut twisting. Hello? Silence. Then, static. Faint, distant, like a bad connection. Then, a whisper. You forgot something. The line cut out. My blood turned ice. I stared at the phone, my pulse hammering. I hadn't told anyone where I was staying. No one knew I had left. No one should have been able to call me. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, I made a decision. I was going back. The return. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but I had to end this. To grab my things, to make sure there was nothing left of me in that house. By the time I reached the cabin, the sun was setting, painting the trees in blood orange light. The porch was exactly as I had left it. Silent. Empty. I gripped the truck's steering wheel, my gut twisting. Then, I saw it. The front door. It was open. Wide open. A slow creak echoed as it swayed slightly in the wind, like it had been waiting for me. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself forward. Step by step, heart pounding, shotgun in hand. I stepped inside. The air was wrong. Heavy. Like the house was breathing. Everything was exactly the same. Except the table. The chair was pushed back in. The plate was gone. And in its place, a single photograph. I reached for it, my fingers trembling. It was old, faded around the edges. And when I saw what was in it, my entire body went cold. It was me, sitting at the table, from behind, like someone had been standing right behind me, watching, taking a picture. I dropped the photo, my breath coming in shallow gasps. No, no, no. That's when I heard it. The footsteps. From the bedroom. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. I turned just in time to see a shadow move past the doorway. Something was still in here with me. I ran. Didn't stop, didn't turn back. I sprinted to the truck, slammed the door, and floored it down the dirt road. And this time, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I never went back. The next day, I made the call. Sold the cabin for cheap. Didn't explain why. I don't know who or what was in that house. I don't want to know. But some nights, in my new apartment, miles away, I wake up to the sound of knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I don't open the door. I don't look outside. Because I know. The swing is still moving. Story 3. I never should have taken that shortcut. It was late, too late, and I had been driving for hours. The glow of the dashboard lights the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. The roads were empty, stretching endlessly through the vast countryside. The only sounds the low hum of the engine and the occasional chirp of crickets beyond the glass. I was heading home after visiting my parents, who lived 2 states over. I'd made the trip a dozen times before, always sticking to the main highways, but this time, I was exhausted. My eyes felt like sandpaper, and I knew if I didn't stop soon, I'd risk falling asleep at the wheel. That's when I saw the sign. A small, rusted green placard jutting out from the roadside, barely visible under the flickering glow of my headlights. Old Creek Road, 18 miles to interstate. It wasn't a road I recognized, but the GPS confirmed it was legit, a shortcut that would shave almost an hour off my trip. I hesitated. I never take unknown roads, especially not at night, but I was just so damn tired. The thought of getting home sooner was too tempting to pass up. So, like an idiot, I turned. And that was my first mistake. The road was narrow and winding, cutting through dense trees that swallowed what little moonlight there was. My high beam struggled to pierce the darkness, illuminating only a few feet ahead before everything blurred into shadows. There were no streetlights, no signs, no other cars. The deeper I drove, the more I realized how isolated this place was. A creeping unease settled in my gut, but I shook it off. It was just the lack of sleep, I told myself. Just my mind playing tricks. Then I saw something ahead. At first, it was just a shadow, a shape in the distance, standing at the edge of the road. My breath hitched as I slowed the car, my heart beginning to hammer. As I got closer, my stomach twisted. It was a woman. She stood perfectly still, barefoot, wearing what looked like a thin white dress that clung to her skin in the damp night air. Her long, dark hair hung over her face, her arms limp at her sides. I slowed to a crawl, my pulse roaring in my ears. What the hell was she doing out here? I rolled the window down a crack. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She didn't move, didn't even react. Just stood there, her head tilted slightly toward me, though her hair kept her face hidden. Something about her felt wrong. A heavy, suffocating wrongness. I swallowed hard. My instincts screamed at me to drive, to leave her standing there and get the hell out of this place. But before I could react it, she moved. Not like a normal person. Not at all. 1 second, she was standing completely still. The next, she was right beside my window. I didn't see her move. There was no transition, no footsteps. Just one moment she was far away, and the next, her face was inches from mine. I yelped, jerking back against my seat. My foot instinctively slammed on the gas. The tires screeched against the asphalt as the car lurched forward. But before I could get away, she reached out and grabbed my arm. Her fingers were ice cold, pressing into my skin like needles. For the first time, I saw her face. And I wished I hadn't. Her skin was pale, almost gray, her features stretched and unnatural, like something that had tried to mimic a human but got it horribly wrong. And her eyes. They weren't eyes at all. Just black, gaping holes, sunken deep into her face. I screamed, yanking my arm back, my foot slamming the pedal to the floor. The car roared forward, the force nearly throwing me against the wheel. I didn't dare look back. I just drove, my hands trembling so badly I could barely keep the wheel steady. But the worst part? As I sped down the road, I heard her voice. Not outside. Not behind me. Inside the car. A whisper slithering through the darkness. You shouldn't have come here. I don't know how long I drove before I dared to glance in the rearview mirror. My breath came in ragged gasps, my skin crawling. The road behind me was empty. She was gone. For the first time in my life, I prayed out loud, begged for this nightmare to be over. I just needed to get to the interstate, to civilization, to anywhere but here. And then, the headlights cut out. The car shuddered beneath me. The dashboard lights flickered once. Then, everything went black. I slammed the brakes, my breath catching in my throat. The car stalled in the middle of the deserted road, the engine completely dead. I reached for my phone. No signal. Panic clawed at my chest. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. I turned the key. Nothing. I turned it again, harder. Still nothing. A heavy silence settled around me. Then, a tap. Soft. Barely there. Coming from the back window. My stomach dropped. I sat there, frozen, my hands clenched around the steering wheel. Another tap. Then a slow, scraping sound, like fingernails dragging against glass. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to breathe. Then, a third tap, right next to my ear. I whipped around and saw her, inside the car, sitting in the back seat. Her face mere inches from mine, her gaping eyes locked onto me. And she was smiling. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember throwing the door open and tumbling onto the asphalt, my knees scraping against the rough pavement as I scrambled away from the car. But I do remember the laughter. Low, raspy, echoing all around me. Not just from the car, from the trees, from the darkness itself. And then, the headlights blazed back on. The car's engine roared to life. And just like that, she was gone. I didn't go back for the car. I ran, through the trees, through the night, until I saw the glow of distant lights in the distance. A truck stop. I stumbled inside, shaking, gasping, trying to convince myself I hadn't gone insane. When the clerk saw me, he frowned. You okay, buddy? I couldn't speak. I just nodded, still trying to catch my breath. Then, from behind the counter, he said something that made my blood run cold. You took Old Creek Road, didn't you? I slowly turned to him, my entire body rigid. His expression darkened. People go missing out there, man. You're lucky you made it. I swallowed hard. Who was she? The clerk hesitated, then muttered. Nobody you want to meet twice. I sat at the counter, my hands still shaking, my skin cold and clammy. The smell of coffee and fried food drifted through the truck stop, but I could barely register it. My body still felt frozen, like my muscles hadn't caught up to the fact that I had escaped. The clerk watched me carefully, a deep crease forming between his brows. You sure you're okay, man? I nodded. Lied. Yeah, just long drive. He didn't look convinced. I glanced toward the large window beside us, the reflection of the truck stop glowing against the blackness outside. Somewhere down that road, my car sat abandoned, headlights cutting into nothing. And she had been in it. My stomach twisted. The clerk cleared his throat, shifting his weight behind the counter. You said you took Old Creek Road, right? I swallowed. Nodded. He exhaled through his nose, shaking his head. Shouldn't have done that. No shit. He walked away for a moment, returning with a small notebook. The pages were yellowed and curling, the edges smudged with fingerprints. He flipped through it, stopping near the back, and turned it around for me to see. It was a photo. A black and white image of a woman standing in the middle of the road. I went rigid. It was her. Same long, dark hair, same thin white dress, the same hollowed-out eyes that had stared through me in the car. You saw her, the clerk said quietly. I couldn't speak. He tapped the photo. Her name was Abigail Hayes. Lived here, long time ago. Story goes she got caught up with the wrong people, some real sick bastards. They say she escaped one night, ran barefoot down Old Creek Road, trying to get away. I didn't want to hear this, but I couldn't stop listening. The clerk's voice lowered. She never made it. I licked my lips, forcing out the question. What happened to her? He hesitated. They found her body days later, dumped deep in the woods. Eyes were gone, just hollow sockets. My stomach turned. He continued, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing the edge of the photo. People say she never left. That she's still out there, waiting. If you see her on the road, if you stop, she latches onto you. A cold weight pressed against my chest. I wanted to say it wasn't real, that I had hallucinated it from exhaustion, but I could still feel her fingers on my arm freezing, sharp, like they had been digging into my skin. The clerk snapped the book shut. You're lucky you made it here. I let out a slow, shuddering breath. Yeah, Then he frowned. But she let you go? Something about his tone made my pulse spike. I blinked at him. What do you mean? He set the notebook down. People who see her don't just walk away. His voice was careful now, measuring my reaction. You said she was in your car? I nodded stiffly. The clerk hesitated. Then why are you still here? I didn't understand. I ran. I left the car. Then I froze. Because I didn't run until after she had smiled. After she had let me see her. Let me leave. The realization made my whole body go cold. She had never tried to stop me. She had wanted me to leave. I shot up from my seat, the stool scraping loudly against the floor. The clerk startled. Hey, man. But I was already backing away, my breath coming in ragged, panicked gasps. She hadn't been trapped in that place. She had let me take her with me. She wasn't waiting on Old Creek Road anymore. She was following me. I didn't go back for the car. I didn't even go home. I checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, locking every door, every window. I tried to sleep. I really did. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. That grin. Those empty sockets staring right through me. Somewhere in the night, my exhaustion won. I drifted off, curled against the stiff motel sheets, my body shutting down from sheer terror. And then, the knocking started. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I shot up, my pulse thundering. My eyes darted toward the door. The room was pitch black, the only light coming from the dim glow of the motel sign outside. I swallowed, my mouth dry as paper. Another knock. This time, against the window. I squeezed my eyes shut, my breath shaking. It's not real. It's not real. Then, a whisper, right beside my bed. You brought me home. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. A presence loomed over me, pressing against my chest, thick and suffocating. I felt something stroke my arm, cold, lingering, almost affectionate. Then, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I opened my eyes. She was right there, bent over me, smiling, not empty anymore. Her sockets were filled. With my eyes. I screamed. The room exploded into darkness, the air shattering around me. I woke up in a hospital bed. The nurses told me I had been found in my motel room, catatonic, shaking violently. They thought I had a seizure. The motel clerk said I had been screaming when he found me, my hands clutching at my face. When I finally spoke, the first thing I asked was, "My eyes, are they okay?" A long silence. The doctor gave me a confused look. "Your eyes are fine." But they weren't. I could see, but everything felt wrong. The colors looked too dull, the light too dim. It was like I was looking at the world through someone else's eyes. I knew the truth. She had taken mine and left me with hers. It's been months since that night. I don't drive at night anymore. I don't even look at mirrors if I can help it. Because sometimes, when I glance at my reflection too quickly, it's not me looking back. And late at night, when everything is quiet, I still hear her whisper, "You shouldn't have come here." But I know what she really means. You shouldn't have left me. Because now, I see things. Things I shouldn't be able to see. And I think she's still watching through my eyes. Waiting for the next person to take the wrong road and bring her home.